Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Okay, there, I hit the button. We've started recording. Derek, we have two guests tonight, but not really. Mike is actually working as a co-host. Mike, say hi.
Hello.
And Eric is also here, and I'm not so sure he's a guest. I'm thinking this show is more of an informational show. So there's really no guests. It's just us spewing out information across the globe.
How is this different from a normal podcast?
Well, sometimes we have actual guests that are very frequent. You know, occasionally they're on. And yet now tonight we have Derek from Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello.
Did you get any bad weather there?
We got maybe an inch of rain today and some thunderstorms. When I woke up this morning, I saw that there was an alert and there were some tornadoes west of us, but I just wrote it out at the house, and schools were closed today, of all things, for a little bit of rain. But I guess better to be safe than sorry.
You just wrote it out?
Yeah, I waited until about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then went to the office.
Oh, I thought maybe kind of like a Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz thing. The house was up and spinning around, and you just thought, well, I'll just write it out.
We do have this ongoing debate of where the safest place in the event of a tornado would be in our house. Would it be the hallway? Would it be the downstairs bathroom? And I wish for no damage, but one of these days I want to actually test it and see where the safest place would be.
Oh, it'd be in the basement.
Well, we don't have a basement.
I know. I don't think I came up with this theory a couple of years ago now with Tom Jacobs, and I think that every house north of the Mason-Dixon line, every layout north of the Mason-Dixon line must be built in a basement.
That's probably true.
But it's not an option, because Tom had built an outbuilding, and I thought, no, you have to build it in the basement. You have no choice.
But his layout's coming along pretty well, I read.
Yeah, well, and the thing of it is, there's so many people south of the Mason-Dixon line, or in the lower 48, in the lower states, South Carolina. Well, not South Carolina. South Carolina is kind of hit and miss. But Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, all those states there where they don't have basements. Those people are like Florida. All those people are like, geez, I wish I had a basement.
When we lived in Middle Tennessee, we looked at 60 houses and did not see a basement.
Really?
Yes.
Eric, I don't think you're on your microphone.
Oh, sure I am.
It sounds very much like you're scratch your microphone.
Oh, well, let me try this.
Yeah, try that. Why don't you?
How about that? Is that better?
That's much better.
Yeah, sorry, I was on the mic that was on the camera.
Okay. Yeah, you were kind of
idle.
Yeah.
This is what we get for killing the check bit.
Yes, exactly. Check. Yeah, we should have done. Check. Yeah, that was kind of getting old, I thought. But maybe we need to go back to it. So the reason we've gathered here tonight is because, or today, or this afternoon, or this morning, or while you're on the plane flying somewhere, or whatever it is it wasn't that long ago that Eric Hansmann, so we have Eric Hansmann all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You don't actually live in Philadelphia, do you?
I sure do.
Really?
Yes.
In the metropolitan, not in the metro, but in the actual Philadelphia boundaries.
The city and county are the same entity. So I live in the city of Philadelphia.
Yo, Adrian.
Haven't seen him yet.
There used to be a statue, a Rocky statue, wasn't there?
Oh, it's still there. It's down near the Museum of Art.
Okay. Did they move it at some point?
I think it used to be at the top of the stairs or near the top of the stairs, and they moved it down to the base of the stairs.
Oh, okay. And so how far are you from Rocky?
Driving probably about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes.
Okay. In the county of Philadelphia.
Yeah, in this. Yep.
So does Philadelphia not have like a metropolitan area?
Most likely it has a metropolitan statistical area, but I don't know. That probably includes part of Montgomery County, Chester County, Delaware County. Oh, what else? Parts of New Jersey, maybe even part of Delaware.
Oh, okay. What's your actual address so people know? and then we have Mike Hauk, who is from the Erie, Pennsylvania area.
Yes, the exact opposite corner of the state from Eric.
Yeah, you guys seem to be quite excited about that the other day.
Yeah, well, geography's interesting.
Yeah, it is. And is there some sort of, like people who are from one side of Pennsylvania to the other side of Pennsylvania, is there some sort of hidden rivalry that people don't know about there?
Well, I don't know. I grew up in Central PA, and we always considered Philadelphia part of New Jersey, practically. So, and when I went to school in Philadelphia and talked to people from Philadelphia, the people in my class, they just had this attitude that there was nothing but howling wilderness and Amishmen between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So,
and then
I don't know.
And then 2 hours north of that is Erie, Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
To which we have yet to figure out exactly why it's there.
Well, I don't know.
Other than to gather snow.
I guess for people traveling between Cleveland and Buffalo to stop and take a leak and get gas, I think mostly.
Actually, though, during the summer, that whole area, it's very, very pleasant. It's a very, very nice area in the summer months.
Oh, yeah. Summer and fall are beautiful. I think the Presque Isle State Park here that sticks out into Lake Erie is the most visited state park in Pennsylvania. I think they get over 1 million visitors a year.
Yeah, it's very cool. And what's the actual name of the town you live in?
Fairview.
Fairview, Pennsylvania, which is on the outskirts of Erie, Pennsylvania. And Erie, Pennsylvania is that stretch, as we've talked about before, the stretch between, I'd say maybe 20 miles west of Erie, Pennsylvania, all the way to Buffalo, and maybe 20 to 30 miles south of Lake Erie, is one of the most treacherous stretches of road in the winter in all of North America.
It's pretty close, I think.
Exactly. I mean, man, you can get into snowstorms there that are unimaginable. I've told this story once or twice before, but 100 years ago, my parents were coming back from Florida, I believe. This has got to be going back 35, 40 years ago. And somehow they ended up on Interstate 90 when it was closed.
Oh, my gosh.
And they couldn't get off because the plows had plowed the exits. They had somehow managed to get on as the plows were throwing in the towel. And they had plowed, huge mounds of snow up against where you would exit, and they couldn't get off the highway.
Oh, no.
Well, I know in New York State, they have gates that come down to prevent you from getting on. I wasn't sure if it was to prevent you getting on 90 or from escaping the state, but I think it's to keep you from getting on 90 when the snow is really bad. We don't have that in Pennsylvania. Yeah,
they have those in Ontario now, too, these gates that come down to keep you from getting on the highway. But they're only I feel like they're less than 20 years old, those gates.
Yeah, I think that's a new thing, relatively new.
Yeah. So anyways, my dad and mom somehow got trapped on Interstate 90. And finally, my mom, who was having a meltdown, as my dad relayed the story, somehow he decided that what he was going to do was start driving west on the eastbound lanes of Interstate 90.
Wow, that's a challenge there.
Because he said the only way he could figure out to get off the interstate was to start driving west. He knew the snow would stop eventually. And when he said eventually he got west of Erie, Pennsylvania, and he started seeing the headlights of cars coming towards him. So he pulled off onto the shoulder of the highway and kind of eased his way down and then he saw, he eased his way down the highway until he found an exit and got off the highway.
Wow.
But those kind of snow stories are all today yesterday in and around my northern home. We had a huge huge ice storm. And just by coincidence, I had managed to get a tree guy. I don't know why. Tree trimmers seem to be have a spectacularly successful business. I had called 2 or 3 tree people to come and trim I have quite a few fairly large trees on my property. And we'd had a couple of snowstorms where branches were falling off. And I started thinking to myself, I got to do something about this. So anyways, last fall, these 2 guys came. We had found these 2 guys, they're great guys. And they came and they trimmed all my trees, thank God, because a few weeks ago, there was a huge ice storm there and many more branches fell off the trees. But I can only imagine what the damage would have been had we not done some preventative tree trimming.
Yeah.
So the reason we're having this meeting, gentlemen, is because a few weeks ago, Eric sent me a text about how successful. Which RPM was it?
It was RPM East, held in Metro Pittsburgh. And that was just recently, March 21st and 22nd. We ushered in spring with a really wonderful prototype modeler meet.
And how recently was it?
A week ago.
No.
10 days.
No.
10 days ago.
No, you have you don't have no idea how recently it was.
Well, no. That's why I said March 21st and 22nd.
But yeah, it was wildly successful.
Yeah, it went very well.
And then by coincidence, the following weekend in Macon, Georgia, the RPM, the one that used to be the Savannah RPM, was moved to Macon, Georgia, and they were hoping it was successful beyond their wildest dreams. It was the most. They had 106 people, 450 models, and they were thrilled. Paul Spillman and those guys were thrilled with how that went.
That's really great. That's really good to see that turning up strong there in Georgia.
And so it turned out that Mike Hauk and Eric were there at this RPM meet. And I thought, hey, let's have a kind of a gab fest about RPMs. Because, Derek, I don't think you've ever been to one yet, have you?
No, I've been at least to one. I went to NERPM one time when I was in college and just was blown away. And that was a one and done. I haven't been back since then.
Right. And are they becoming more popular, do you think, Eric?
I'd say so. There's quite a few on the calendar still for the rest of the year. From now through November, I'd say there's about 20 on the calendar right now.
Wow. And so if you would like to find out about a calendar about RPM meets, if you go to Eric Hansmann's blog.
Yes, designbuildop.hansmans.org. There's a link for the RPM event calendar on the resources page. It's a menu on the right, or it comes up in a Google search anymore. So many people have searched for it that I know it comes up pretty quickly.
It does.
I was wrong. There are 16 events from now through the end of October.
And if you just Google Eric Hansmann blog, that'll probably get you to the blog as well.
Most likely, yep.
And I find blogs to be incredibly useful.
Well, you obviously been reading a few.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
No,
This is an informative podcast.
Yeah, no. Eric, you know how I feel. The blogs basically are like a pimple on the butt of society.
Thank you.
But there are a few people who, the thing that drives me crazy about blogs is you go to them and the last entry is, September of 2022. I think people take on too much in today's world. And it seems like a great idea at the time to have a blog to keep track of all your stuff. But people seem to lose interest in blogs. I think because you have to be fairly dedicated to keep it current.
Well, people ebb and flow with their hobby activities too. I know a couple friends who have had blogs, haven't really done much in the hobby for a while, other than help some other friends with their layouts. So, we're not all as driven as some folks who have blogs, and other things have superseded blogs. I'd say Facebook pages have become very, very popular. I enjoy my blog because I can tell a long form story a little better. And everyone's got their own type of thing.
But I must commend you on your particular blog, because you've done a good job on keeping this RPM events calendar very current. And how do you do that? Like, how do you find out where these events are?
I get emails or private messages on Facebook, or some friends might tell me, "Hey, there's a new RPM starting up in wherever, Batavia, New York, or something like that." And I find some sort of contact, or they have a contact, and I get in touch with the people there, and then I take it from there. What's the name? What are the dates? Where's it being held? Do you have a website? I need a link. If not, how about a PDF of your flyer, and I'll post it. So,
and because there is something called RPM Conference.
Yeah, that was created. That was Mike Skibby created that site, and he was hoping to use RPM Conference at other events. He hosted the Naperville, Illinois RPM for a few years and used that site, and he also hosted the RPM conference at the A&D Junction. NMRA. It was 3 NMRA regions that had a convention, and there was an RPM aspect to it as well.
But it's not really the go-to place. It's really pretty much the only place on the internet to find out a constant, regular source of what RPMs are coming up is your page, is it not?
Right. I keep accurate dates on here as best as I can. I know there's listings on RPM conference of events, but not necessarily dates. And I think the A-Line Proto Power West website also has some events noted, but no dates.
So Eric's kind of like the unofficial ambassador for RPM meets, right? Because there's no official organizing structure. A lot of these are organic, and the traditions go back, in some cases, I think, over 20 years, but there's no central organizing committee that's saying, we need to have an RPM meet in Macon on this date, like in other train show formats, right? This is sort of very loose and distributed.
Very loose. It's people who have the desire to share information, and they get some of their friends together, and they throw an event, get it going. And that's one of the earliest RPM events I attended was held by Bill Welch at his church in Northern Virginia. And there were hardly, I don't know if there were 20 people there. There were a couple clinics in the morning, and then we decided to have another one after lunch. There was a handful of models on display, and it was just great to meet people and talk about, what they're doing, the models they brought, how did they do this detail, where did you get this information, that type of thing. And it's about sharing what we know and helping others do better.
Well, I was just going to ask, who thought this was a good idea? Because it is a phenomenal idea, but it had to start somewhere. Was Bill Welch, was his meet the first?
No. I believe the first one was held by Joe DeAlia, who owns Proto Power West and A-Line, and he held it out west. And shortly after that, Martin Lofton started hosting RPMs too. Basically, it came out of NMRA conventions where there was a heavy prototype track. I remember the 91 convention in Pittsburgh had, a whole track of presentations that were all prototype oriented. Al Westerfield did one on H.J. Hines. I think Tony Thompson did one on Southern Pacific freight car fleet. All these things, and people just wanted more than just one a year, or they wanted to have one close to where they live and not necessarily have to travel to the NMRA convention to attend.
So there was one out west with Joe DeAlia, and then Martin Lofton started one, and then it kind of snowballed from there over the last, 25, 30 years? Is that the sort of archivist?
We're coming up on, I think, 30 years. I was talking with Steve Heil last fall at the Naperville meet, and I think he mentioned, if we didn't miss a year or two for COVID, it would have actually been the 30th Naperville event. So it goes back almost 35 years now.
Naperville was kind of like one of the early ones, wasn't it?
Yeah, Martin did meets in California and also Naperville, and there's just a beehive of modeling activity around Chicago, and it really took hold there very well.
In a couple of weeks, I want to interview Paul Spillman, who was one of the organizers of the Savannah, Macon, Georgia meet. And Eric, would you like to join me when we do that?
I'd be happy to.
Okay. Mike, you're invited too, of course, if you'd like to join.
Thank you. Sure.
But Mike, the reason you're on there is because you and Eric happened to attend this RPM East, which it's every other year, because on opposing years it's in the Philadelphia area, right?
Yeah, we rotate off with the Philadelphia crew. So, we avoid burnout. And, there's some people in Philly can't make the one in Pittsburgh all the time, and some people around Metro Pittsburgh can't make the one in Philly all the time. So it just kind of spreads it out a little bit, makes it a lot easier for everybody. Now,
you said we. Are you somehow involved in the organization of it?
Of what?
Of this RPM East? With
RPM East, yes. I've been involved with RPM East going back probably 2003.
Yeah, even because you constantly move about the country because it's something to do with some sort of a legal problem.
Yes, yes, it's those darn license plates. Yeah, well, I lived in West Virginia till 2009, so I was involved. I helped get the RPM East website off the ground. I think 2007. And then I just, kept in touch. I helped Dick Flock and Larry Klein with promotion and publicity. Dick Flock basically got me into the hobby back in '72. He was my mentor for model railroading, and I learned a great deal from Larry. He was a Western Maryland Railway historian and modeler, and very generous with his knowledge. And I miss them both. They've both gone on. But other people have taken over RPM East, and I'm still helping out with publicity and the web, and throwing information out there for them to consider.
Yeah, because
you're also a presenter, right, Eric? I sat in your clinic.
Yeah, I've been a presenter. I tell you the truth, I'm not sure when I haven't been a presenter there.
And you were a presenter this year as well, Mike.
Yep.
This is this lineup of clinics that they have at RPM East is kind of almost like a who's who of the hobby. I mean, my goodness gracious, there'd be no way you could get to all these clinics.
Well, many of them were repeated this year, so we wanted to make it easy for people to really enjoy and not have to feel rushed to get from clinic to clinic. So I think it worked out pretty well.
Well, what do you mean repeated? Like everybody kind of did them twice?
Not everybody.
Okay, some of them were.
Yes.
It seems like you got like 30 different. I mean, I'm not counting them, but basically it looks like you had a list of about 30 different clinics.
37, actually.
Well, I said about 30. So
remember, these are prototype modelers, Lionel.
Yeah, exactly.
Rivets count,
clinics count.
Yes.
And they're usually one of the amazing things about RPMs is traditionally they're on Friday and Saturday, correct?
Many of them are, yes.
That's the thing I find fascinating about RPMs. And Mike, I want you to jump in. How many RPMs do you think you feel like you've been to?
Well, just 3 so far. I was to the RPM East in 2023, and then I went down to Cocoa Beach this past January. I'd never been to Cocoa Beach, and that's another old one that's been going on for a long time. So, and then this current RPM East one. And then I guess technically, if you count the tri-regional in Indianapolis, that was sort of an RPM event with the NMRA.
So how did you feel like you started to go? I mean, you're an older gentleman, such as myself. I believe you're in your early 80s, are you not?
Sometimes I feel that way. Yeah.
Oh, no, wait a minute. You just look like you're in your early 80s.
Yeah. Well, looks are deceiving. It ain't the years; it's the mileage.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you feel like you? Because I think this is important to have a general discussion about RPMs, which is what this is going to be. And how do you feel like you started to become interested in RPMs?
Oh boy, I think because Jim Six, I think, had I think it was a Yahoo group or something way back when, and I don't know how I found that, but I followed that group, and I think he had an RPM once, maybe in the Cleveland area, and I tried to go to that, but I think I was on call that week and I couldn't get there. But I still followed the whole RPM thing, and then had been to a couple of NMRA conventions once I was settled here involved in the NMRA, and then it popped up somehow that that's right, they have this RPM down, and it used to be in Greensburg, till that venue got converted to a Menards or something, but okay, well, this looks like fun. And then I had a bunch of guys here say, hey, let's go to the RPM. Okay, yeah, sure. So there was a couple of us went in 2023. Like, this was a blast. We should make sure we go in 2025 when they come back. And so we did, and a couple guys unfortunately got sick and couldn't make it. But I was able to drag Rob Bennett down. He had never been to an RPM. He had a great time. And Ray Brown is another guy here locally. He had been, I think, to the St. Louis one once. And convinced him to bring some models down and display them. And so they both had a great time. So, it just sort of evolved, I guess.
Right. And what I know what I noticed about RPMs when I started going to them, but what was your, how do I put this question? I know how much fun I have when I go to NERPM. Excuse me. But like, what was your sense of what they are? Like, they're different from conventions. They seem much more. It's a very odd thing, Eric. RPMs are a very odd thing, and Derek, your job going forward is to attend a couple of RPMs.
I need to get back on the RPM bandwagon for sure.
Because
I think I am going to hopefully one in Pennsylvania this summer.
Oh yeah, the one with Jerry Britton.
I think, so far that's the plan.
All right, and we're supposed to actually talk to Jerry Britton about his RPM coming up. So feel free to join me.
Okay, I need to send in my registration form.
Yeah, Eric, feel free to join me.
Just let me know.
Soon these podcasts are going to be like 30 people. So the sense I got, Mike, when I go is they seem it's a very odd dynamic, because I get the sense from a lot of people that they feel like they shouldn't take models because their stuff isn't good enough. But when any RPM I've attended, it seems like a very welcoming atmosphere. And that's really not the criteria. Your stuff doesn't have to be spectacular to be put on a table.
No, it's just something. It doesn't even have to be complete. If it's just a project you're working on and it's partway done, just bring it. Maybe somebody's interested in seeing it and talking to you about it. I mean, having been on the NMRA side and the RPM side, I seem to have more fun at the RPMs, to be honest with you. I think because it's less, it's more informal. It seems a little bit more laid back. And I know sometimes some people have the attitude that the RPMs, it's a bunch of stuck up rivet counters and blah blah blah. It's not. My impression I got is it's very laid back. Everybody's just showing their stuff. The clinics are a little bit more prototype focused. Maybe there's not as many. For lack of a better term, general interest type clinics, though that may not necessarily be true, but there's also some that are very deep dive into a fairly narrow prototype topic. And there's much less administrative overhead. There's no banquet, there's no contest. So there's none of that going on. It just seems less bureaucratic to me. It's just people wanting to share information and show their models and have a good time. And I look forward to them now. I've been to a couple of them now, and if you present, you do a clinic and you put yourself out there, you get to meet people, and people I haven't seen since 2023. I don't think I've seen Eric in person since 2023. Hey, Eric, how's it going? You see all these people, and you pass them in the hallway, and you get to chat with them, see what they're doing, and it's just becomes a social thing, and it's just very, very laid back. And the vendors, usually some really quality vendors there. Fennar and Camerlenga are there, and usually they have a buy one get one kind of deal, and so it's very hard to walk past their table and not buy something. So it's just it's just fun. It's just a lot more laid back than.
And Eric, you've got quite a history with RPMs. Like what year did you first get involved? 2003, you said?
I think it was then. I can't really remember.
Well, now see, this is the problem with blogs. You feel like you have this blog where you keep copious notes, and this would be ideal to have on your blog is when you started with RPMs.
Maybe I'll add that as a special aside.
Yeah.
Frankly, I didn't have the blog back when I started going to RPMs.
and I think you were easier to talk to then.
Maybe. Who knows?
So, okay. Having a history of over 20 years in some form or another with RPMs, what is it you feel is the secret to their success? Is it just simply that there's so much less bureaucracy and so much less structure? Because there is structure. Like with the RPM East, it started on. It was it a Friday Saturday event?
That's when the presentations were, but we had operating sessions scheduled for Thursday, and that was if people are coming early, they could opt in for that, and they were assigned to a layout to operate on. And then on Sunday, most of those layouts were open for self-guided tour to check those out on the way home. So, technically it's we are in a facility for Friday and Saturday, but there's some spillover on each side.
It sounds like they're really collaborative. Like that's maybe one of the adjectives I would use is there's a lot of collaboration. Like instead of going to a banquet and sitting at the table and listening to a lecture or a speech or whatever, you're just at the table talking about models, right? That's the most fun you can have in the hobby is collaborating with others and hashing out how you did something. Like it's better than reading a magazine. It's better than hopping on a podcast. It's just different. And I think it's just a good vibe. And I think we could all stand to go to more RPM meets.
Did you just want to change that part about it's better than being on a podcast? Did you want to
that there on purpose?
Did you want to rethink that particular statement? No, go ahead.
I'll leave it in there. We'll see if that makes it to the air.
Okay, yeah.
That's how we'll know if anybody's listening.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, Eric, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. I think the focus is mainly on the presentations. You don't have to sign up for a tour that goes off site with a small group. You're pretty well confined to the facility, and so you're talking with people before a presentation starts, after it ends. You're hanging out in the model room. You talk about what's there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but I think we had close to 1,000 models on display.
Yeah, there was a lot, and they raised the gamut from large scale. The fella had that mine thing on the one back table there, down to N scale stuff and all variety of stuff from steam era up through the modern. Yeah, there was a lot of models there. I mean, and it was. I had to go back a couple different times to the room to make sure that I got a look at least once at all of them just to see what they were.
I was just processing some photos today for the gallery that I hope to post here soon. And I know I missed so much. It's hard to take photos of everything. But I'm just looking at these models and I'm thinking, holy cow, I didn't even realize this was there,
Yeah.
Where would this gallery be when you get it done? Where would people be able to see it?
Well, people will be able to see it because I will have a blog post about it.
No, but I'm like, okay, it's going to be on your blog.
It's going to be on the blog. And if you look at the RPM calendar, above where it says 2025 events, there's a link for RPM photo galleries.
Oh yeah, look at that. Look at
that goes to all the photo galleries of RPM meets that I've attended.
I just had this thought, and I'm interested in everybody's opinion. I think here's the problem with blogs. It's what they're called. Hey, Eric, where would somebody see a photo gallery on your blog? I mean, it sounds like you've driven off the road and you're stuck up to your axles in mud or something. Hey, you want to look at my blog? It's like if you guys ever saw the movie Founder. During the movie Founder, it's about the guy. It's about Ray Kroc. Who ended up making McDonald's what it is. And there's a famous scene in it where the two original brothers, he paid them a lot of money in the late 60s and to get them basically out of the business. But that's another story here together. But he says to the one brother, he says, "You still don't get it, do you?" And the brother goes, "What? No, I don't." He says, "It's that name. It's that glorious name." He said, "Nobody would have gone to Croc's. Hey, you want to go to have a burger at Croc's?" And I think that's the problem with blogs. It's the name. I think we got to change. We got to make it a personal. Derek, I'm thinking we need to make it a pursuit of the AML nation to change the word blog.
To just rename the entire enterprise.
Yeah, because I think
personal online diary, but that's a mouthful, though.
Yeah, and
I think just online journal.
Yeah, I like that.
Or just personal website.
Yeah, anything but, hey, go to my blog.
I mean, maybe we like his blog because it's at hansmans.org, so his blog is really organized.
Yeah, well, it's very organized. Okay, so all right, so now there's going to be RPM photo. I'm going to click on that link and see where that takes me. Okay, there we go. Well, this is very well organized. RPM Naperville, Mid-Atlantic, Valley Forge 2024, Naperville 2023, Indy 2022. I'm liking this. Nice. This is sweet.
Now, I should maybe post a disclaimer on here that once you dive in, please stay hydrated.
Yeah, pack a lunch.
Yeah, this is cool. I like this. Eric, I would have to, you know what? I would have to say at this point, your blog is my favorite. No, let me rephrase that. Eric, I would have to say at this point, your blog is my favorite.
Well, I don't know how to feel about that, Lionel. I thank you so much.
Maybe we should have an annual blog award.
Hey, we can have a banquet.
And we could just, like, the award could be like this melted piece of metal at the top, somebody holding like this metal, gooey piece of metal, a blog.
Broken spike.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But melted, just because it's a blog. It's like.
I think that's actually a great idea to do like a best of the hobby awards. But as defined by the AML podcast.
Yeah, you get best of, and then you get it'll become like the shirt thing. There'll be like 13 awards, and nobody will ever get an award because there's 13 of them. I think we should just stick with the best blog for now.
Start small.
Yeah, start small and keep it small. I think that's the plan. So, Eric, what is how about this? If somebody is listening to this particular podcast, and I'm not sure why they would, but if somebody was listening to this particular podcast and they were excited about, you know what, I'd like to do an RPM in my area. Like, what would be a good way because the thing that fascinates me about RPMs is there's no handbook of instructions. It's all very unwritten rules about how to run an RPM, and yet they seem to all run so well because they all run through this unwritten rule book of do's and don'ts.
Well, it's a dedicated team for each event, and you craft it for your local your local audience. That's who you're gonna mainly get through the door is your local modelers from your region. Down at the bottom of the RPM event calendar, you can find my email address, and you can email me. And I've got a Word document that I've shared with Dave Owens, I've shared with Michelle Kempema, and some other people to help them get their events rolling. And I'm happy to share that. It's just basic stuff. It's not necessarily a checklist of do everything. It's just basically these have worked well for other RPMs.
What's the smallest divisible unit of an RPM? Like, we were talking to Spiky Bits, who is in the wargaming space on the podcast a couple of months ago, and he was talking about how the gaming hobbies have like nerd bars where, you know, it's like a social area in a storefront where they'll get together, work on models, talk about models, and that kind of thing over a couple of beers. Like, could an RPM be as simple as in a city like Birmingham, putting out an invite saying, "Hey, come to this brewery, bring a model, drink beers, let's talk about our models"? Like, is that an RPM, or does it need to have clinicians? Like what is the smallest starting point for an RPM that you could conceivably have?
I think you hit it on the head right there. But the thing of it is, again, you've got to push the local, start with a handful of people, and do it maybe once every 6 months and see where it goes from there. If people really like it, you know, do you want to go bigger? Hey, our church social hall is usually empty on Saturdays. Let's try for a morning and afternoon on a Saturday. You can grow it like that, but I always recommend people start small. The people who attend early on are probably going to be part of your core team, and it grows from that.
So there's really no. And what did you say if people email you, which is at the bottom of the RPM calendar page?
That's right.
We won't say it here, but if people want to take the initiative to go to designbuildop.hansmans, HANSMANNS.org. If you go, and really, if you just Google Eric Hansmann blog, it'll come up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then I will give you credit. It's fairly easy to navigate your blog. I give you credit for that. I think we should do that. I think we should have a favorite blog once a year. The blog. I got to find just the right trophy for that.
the official favorite blog, and then maybe we could end the episode, every episode, with a shout out to the official favorite blog of the AML.
See, that's the notes that you have to make.
Too much organization. Yeah, the rehearsals will get longer. And
exactly.
Yeah, it's just a mess. Yeah. I'm going to stop having ideas. And
I would
go back to asking questions.
I think that's the best. I think that's the best route to go is stop having ideas.
Yeah. Well, that's why I've stuck so long on the podcast.
Yeah.
So, how have RPMs changed over the 35-ish year history?
Well, there's more of them, and some of them are bigger. They're just everywhere now. It's surprising how many are happening in Canada.
Well, now, why would you say that? We have electricity.
Oh, I know that. It's just good to see. There has been one or two around Toronto that have come and gone, and I currently don't see one in Toronto. 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 Yeah, Toronto. There's Waterloo. There's Hamilton.
Well, Hamilton is very close to Toronto.
Right.
They don't know it, but they're basically Toronto.
I thought everybody in Toronto was a model railroader, so I figured any social gathering was an RPM.
Yeah, exactly. Toronto.
Sorry.
Go Leafs, go.
It's just good to see these pop up all over the place, and none of them are as big as the St. Louis event, and RPM East, we drew about 250 people this time around, and that was a record for us. I wasn't expecting to get over 230, and we were surprised. But a lot of these may get 50, 75 people, which is really great if you're a first timer, because you're that much closer to people who do the presentations, people who bring the models. It's easy to track people down and talk.
But part of the magic of RPMs is the accessibility to people. Like the last time I went to NERPM, which was a couple of years ago, I ended up having these great interviews with like Jim Lincoln and Ted DiIorio and Chris Adams, and just walking around the room with my little recorder. And I think it's the accessibility to people somehow. It just seems, the whole thing seems far more relaxed and less, like you say, or somebody said, there seems less bureaucracy and less stiffness. Is that a fair statement? Mike, is that a fair statement? Does it seem less stiff?
I think so, because you're mingling in the hallways with the people that are presenting, and you can stop them in the hallway. Hey, I really like the such and such you talked about. What about this? You can ask them direct questions. Basically rub elbows with them. I know that when I presented in 2023, I was talking about Pennsy freight cars, box cars, and in the middle of my presentation, I see Ted Collada walk in the back, and he's Mr. Freight Car. He wrote the whole series in RMC, and I about kind of wet my pants, but the guy in the front row goes, "That's Ted Collada." I said, "I know." But I managed to, hold it together and finish my presentation. And he pointed out a couple things. Oh yeah, by the way, you mentioned this. That's actually such and such a, and so I didn't know that, and had a couple of comments. And then when it was all over, and he was sitting out there just having a cup of coffee. I said, "Well, how did I do?" I said, "I used a lot of your resources. Appreciate it. How did I do?" Because, you did fine. That was a great presentation. So, you get to rub elbows with these people, and you realize they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. But it's fun to be able to talk to them, one-on-one.
Now, Eric, you said if you were a newbie, maybe do it twice a year. But do you think really, aren't most RPMs just once a year?
Most of them are. But, going with Derek's suggestion of meeting up at a tavern on an afternoon, bring some models, we'll talk about this, and whatever. That's easy to do with 5-6 people. If it grows to a dozen, and then there's more interest after that, then I think you should probably start thinking about, finding a separate facility and having it a little more structured.
And what exactly is it, just briefly again, what exactly, when they email you, what exactly are they going to get as far as a helpful instruction?
I've got a Word document that I created that basically goes through a bunch of bullet points of things that have happened with different RPMs, different things to focus on. Having a solid team of 3 to 5 people, focusing on the core of these events is typically the presentations and the model room. And then from that, you can build, if there's room and time, you can build in the space for vendors, maybe T-track displays or Freemo displays, or operating sessions that the night before everything starts, that type of thing. It's like an a la carte menu. It's not set in stone, but there's lots of opportunities to do different things.
And how do you evaluate if there is enough demand for one?
Yeah, that's a great question. How would you figure out? I think that's probably a stumbling block for a lot of people, is how do you figure out if there's a demand?
How many people walk through the door?
No, but I think Derek's question was like, okay, you're Derek and you live in Birmingham, Alabama, and this sounds like a great idea.
Sure.
But really, how do you find people to have a prototype modelers meet with?
Well, that's how you grow it small. You start small, with a core of people, and do it again and see how many more people show up. And then if word gets around, at local clubs and other NMRA meets and whatever, then there's an opportunity maybe to make it a morning and an afternoon in a social hall. Just keep the cost down to nothing, and just focus on the event and the presentations, and see how it grows.
Yeah, I would say especially if there's not an RPM within, say, an easy day's drive of a place. I don't know about Birmingham, if there's anything close by. There might be an untapped demand there. And I think a lot of it is, if you build it, they will come eventually.
Well, and we should say that the Macon RPM that happened a few weeks ago is within a day's drive of me, and I missed it this year. So next year I'll look forward to going to that one. But it's not so often that you have the women's NCAA Sweet 16 and Elite 8 in Birmingham. So we did that instead. It was fantastic. But yes, I think that the last thing I want to do. Don't worry, Paul. I'm not going to start a competitive RPM with you over there in Macon. You guys are doing good work, and look forward to being there next year.
Well, or if you want to do something locally, do it the opposite part of the year. If they do theirs in the spring, then try to schedule something in the fall so you're not conflicting and drawing from the same pool of attendees and the same pool of clinicians, because sometimes that might be an issue too.
Right. Good point.
And
That's right.
And you're not sure what's around Birmingham, Mike. Just down the road is Tuscaloosa.
Roll Tide.
And Roll Tide. And just down the road in the other direction is Talladega, which is home to the Talladega Raceway Speedway. The fastest enclosed racetrack in the world.
Is that right?
It is, yes. It is where the land speed record for enclosed racetracks was set back in, I'm thinking, the late 80s, early 90s, before restrictor plates. 220 plus miles an hour in a stock car.
Wow. Why would you add restrictor plates? That seems silly.
People started getting skeered.
Well,
cars have a tendency to fly when they're going backwards at 200 plus miles an hour.
Isn't the whole point of racing to go fast?
Yeah, that's what Dale Earnhardt said.
Ooh. Too soon.
And Montgomery's just down the road. So yeah, but I think that's important. I mean, we're going to close this up in a minute, but I think that's important. I think a lot. Is there anywhere online, Eric, besides your particular calendar? Is there anywhere online where people can go, and is there a Facebook page or something where people can go and talk about maybe having an RPM? Because I think sorry, I probably already cut you off, but I think it sounds fairly overwhelming to create an RPM.
Well, you can always contact the people who run these too to get some feedback. There is a Facebook group, National RPM Meets. You can probably throw a question on there. I know several people who host and are involved with RPMs, watch that, are part of that group. So you would probably get some feedback there. But it's oftentimes pretty easy to find who's running the show, because if there's a registration, there's usually an email address there. Or if there's a website, or if there's a Facebook page or something like that, there's a way to get in touch with them to see if you can, get some ideas.
There you go. I found it. It is on Facebook. There's a public group, National RPM Meets, and this should be promoted more. And 829 members, and the first post is from, as we speak, 13 hours ago. Come join us November 8th and 9th in 2025 at the Mid-Continent Prototype Modelers Meet in Benton, Kansas. We are in the early stage of getting clinics lined up, but wanted to get the date out there. Have you got that one on your list of?
Well, wait a minute. What's the site again? Because I'm looking at it and I don't see Benton. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Glenn Hoover. Yeah.
Have you got that one? Have you got that one listed on your calendar?
Let's see, November. No, because that just popped up.
See, look at this. Look at the way
it's an informative podcast.
This is like happening. This is as it happens.
That's often how I find stuff. There was also a Red River RPM in Texas, and I haven't seen their announcements lately. So I don't know if that's still going. Sometimes places lose their facility. I mean, that's the Dave Owens thing right there. How they've lost different facilities over the years for the New England Northeast Prototype Modelers Meet.
Yeah, I think
we lost ours for RPM East. The Ramada Inn closed and was leveled, and then they never built what they intended to build on top of it.
I think that's pretty much of a Dave Owens problem, though.
Well, it happened in Chicago too with the Naperville event. but we found an even better venue at the Northern Illinois University Conference Center.
How many do you think you've attended over the years, roughly?
Oh boy, because I know I've attended more than what you see as far as the galleries on that gallery page. I don't know. There were a couple held in Bridgewater, New Jersey that were really neat. Years ago, I helped promote those. I attended those. I have yet to get to Cocoa Beach. Mainly, they've been Chicago, St. Louis, and East. So,
and those are really. I don't really want to. I mean, it's fair to say, is it not, that St. Louis has kind of become the premier event?
It's big. It's different from many of the others. I like to call it. I feel it's more like summer camp compared to other places, other RPM events being more like school.
I'm pretty sure somebody was insulted there. I'm not sure
Well,
who.
yeah,
Like the other, why is it like summer camp?
it just seems more. Well, it seems even more laid back than many of the other RPMs that I've been to. They've been adding presentations over the past few years, but the focus has been more on the model displays, and there's those are in the thousands there, and that's probably the biggest manufacturer vendor room of all the RPMs.
Yeah, they have a huge vendor room. Here's an interest. Yeah. Here's a kind of a cool one. RPM Carolinas. It's what they call it. They call it the RPM Carolinas School of Railway Prototype Modeling in High Point, North Carolina. That's pretty cool. I think people, if they're really looking for somewhere to get some help, is they could go to the RPM National Meet or National RPM Meets on Facebook. The two places I would go for help or discussion are Eric Hansmann's event calendar, because Eric's always willing and anxious to help anybody that wants to do an RPM. And then I would highly recommend that people track down this National RPM Meets on Facebook, because that looks like it could be going forward, could be a really good opportunity for people to discuss and kick around ideas and find out how to do it and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So next up, we're going to talk to, the next time you hear Eric's voice is when we talk to Jerry Britton about the one coming up in Pennsylvania. Let's see, what's it called now? Don't tell me. Let me guess. Don't tell me. I won't guess. I'll get it right here. It is the Central Pennsylvania Shortline RPM. And it's got a really good website too. Although Jerry always has a good website. Everything Jerry does has a good website. Jerry's a good website guy. Wow. There's even a link to a podcast. Look at that.
There are model railroading podcasts?
There are, apparently. Yeah.
Oh.
Some good ones too. Some good ones.
Really?
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. We're out of time. Time is finished. What should we? Oh, I was going to ask you, is there any in outside of the lower 48? Yeah, besides Canada and North America. Is there any outside of North America?
There may well be, but I'm not familiar with them. I know in Europe and England, there's probably some very similar meets, but I do not have any details on those.
Okay. Would you like details on those?
I don't know. I mean, not to sound snobbish or anything, but it's a handful keeping track of all this stuff. If you scroll down further, you'll find several past 2024 events where, I haven't found much of anything for an event in 2025. Now, one of them, RPM Valley Forge, will be held in 2026. But, a couple things, like there's the Red River RPM. I just haven't heard anything new with their meet.
Okay, so I was going to ask you about that. Why do you have old meets listed here? But these are primarily ones that you haven't heard about again.
Right. Right. They've been held. They may come back. I don't know. The LA Prototype Modelers meet. If I click on that, it's got information for their 2022 event.
Okay. If I click on the one for Batavia,
should be a PDF.
It's a PDF, but it's only 2024. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They held that one in conjunction with a train show, and I don't know if they did it this year. I didn't hear back from them.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, here's the mid-continent. Now that was the one that we just, or the North Star RPM in 2024. You go there, and it's a Facebook page, and nothing. Oh, there it is. So it was, so there's no details of another one. So do you think that this happens on a fairly regular basis, that, people have an RPM meet and then that's it, and there's not enough interest or something, or it was more work than they thought, or something like that?
I think in many cases it's more work than the original leader thought, and they may not have a big enough team, or again, they lost their space. It can be tough getting the same space or a bigger space if you need it for a bigger event from year to year. So it could be a number of things. Someone moved. I mean, look at me. I've moved from West Virginia to Cleveland to New York State to Texas to Tennessee, and now in Philly. And that's all been in 14 years.
But I think the little known fact, which I find unbelievably fascinating, is when you were in Nashville, you were the head roadie for that singing guy, Garth Brooks.
Garth, yeah, me and Garth.
You were tight.
Party on, dude.
Hey, are layout tours a component of RPMs? I'm looking at the wrap-up of the MARPM meet, and I'm looking at some pictures on Eric's blog of just phenomenal layouts that were part of the MARPM layout tour.
They can be.
These are great looking layouts.
Again, yeah, there was a lot of really good layouts on that RPM, and I believe they're folding in op sessions for the MARPM this fall, so that's going to be another really good meet. I'm looking forward to attending that one in September.
Yeah, looking at Todd Herman's Lehigh, New England, Catasauqua branch.
Yes,
is just phenomenal. There's this Norfolk and Western layout. Whose layout is this? Jim Brewer's Norfolk and Western Valley line.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you can just spend a whole afternoon at Jim's, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then Kelly Regan's Georgetown branch. I know Lance Minheim had a blog post about that layout recently. Just phenomenal stuff.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up really quick. Give us our email address. Derek, please.
Okay, sorry. If you would like to email us to tell us how much you loved our show or how much you hated our show or anything in between, you can do that through the wonders of email. You can reach us at modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modeler with one L like Lehigh, not two L's like Valley.
And if you like this show, it's on the free channel. And if you liked it and you wanted to have twice as much podcasting every week, you could go to our Patreon channel, and for just a few cents a day, boom, you get twice as much podcasting every week. And the reason I'm talking so fast is because in T-minus 3 minutes and 58 seconds, the Falcon 9 rocket is going to take off from about 60 miles away from my home here, 80 miles away, and I want to go watch it. So, and then if you join the Patreon channel, but you go to the T-shirt level, which is $10 a month, you get a T-shirt that's only available to Patreon members every year. And the secret to that is getting the shirt, and which enters you into the fabulous contest, Hey Dude, Where's My Shirt?, which could possibly be on this Falcon 9 rocket. It just gets shot off into space, and you've got to wait for your shirt. But everybody gets their shirt. There's no doubt about that. Everybody gets their shirt eventually, one way or another. I think that's it. I think we can close this up. T-minus 3 minutes and 10 seconds, the Falcon 9 SpaceX rocket is going to take off.
This might be our most professional sign-off ever.
I don't think so.
You just ran right through that.
Yeah, well. So
Are you out
Eric,
of breath? Take a breath, Lance.
yeah, exactly. So Eric, and when we talk to Jerry Britton, you and Mike are more than welcome to join us. We're going to be doing that probably in a couple of weeks. And this is a really good discussion. And someday we're going to bring bureaucracy to the RPMs. No, we're not. But
That's a losing proposition.
But Eric, I want to tell you, I really enjoy your blog.
Thank you.
Eric, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
RPM attendees.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
I'm watching the live feed, and there seems to be thunder and lightning off in the distance, but they're going to fire this puppy anyways. All right, that's it. T-minus 1 minute and 55 seconds. We're out of here. Gentlemen, thank you very much, but I'm about to hang up on you.